Ayo, Shalom.
That's the bad guy.
I keep on striving for a better way of life. The devil's disguising, the earth's in turmoil and in strife. We are surviving, looking for the better days. Lord, protect our life, guide us closer to your light. He that endureth to the end, the same shall be saved. I'm trying to run this race. I'm trying to finish in first place. And here, well done, my servant. Well done, my servant. Oh.
Rip me out my chains, cuz I don't wanna be here. Thankful to the Father, I got eyes so I can see clear. Taught us that the sickness we inherit is hereditary. Reputation could be passed down to make us legendary. Seems as if the strong could bear the burden, and we never weary. But the thoughts that cross my mind in real time is hella scary. When you die and meet your demise, they say you viral then. But on the earth, there's no checking in when niggas spiraling. The therapy the music tend to give us with the slightest pin, or make the wind feel less destructive when we surviving it. I only enter into this music to remind you, with hopes and wishes that this light I'm vibing with finds you. And even when the shade is great, push through, motherfucker, and shine through. Cause we the hope and the elect. I'm talking times two. We the hope, we the elect. I'm talking times two. And when it's all said and done, it's only you in a dark place. They tried to eradicate the whole dog race. They took the earth by a hand and ripped the crown off the heads of the ones that own this land. And then they made a brand. They put cement over the bones and made businesses. And then they told us this was our home. And then they tried to replicate our religion and made it a clone. And then they told us we was wicked. But if we bowed to white Jesus, somehow we would receive forgiveness. Seeing the presence of our fathers on the top of all our wish lists. And even used shoes was wrapped and presented to us as gifted. We believed in a wooden cross. When we seen black stars on television, we stood in awe. Niggas that chop your legs down and ask how couldn't y'all. Anger misplaced for opportunity, then who wouldn't brawl? If it's all love, then why you niggas break your treaty? The hood ain't a place that's known to comfort, uplift the needy. But I got a shepherd in the valley and he leads me. When we get blessed, then it's true that we all eat. We come from the colleges and churches, some of us all street. Salvation, everything, my life is what it costs me. Warring against negative forces, get them off me. Standing on business, nigga, I'm on top of the ship. Battlefield uncertain, so I'm clutching the grip. I'm a warrior, never let my heart turn weak. Never let my pride triumph over the side of me that's meek. We the people of the creek, from the plains of the savannah. Passed down oral history, the sister of my grandma. Know that they witnessed the recollection and they can't stand you. We striving for a better day, more opportunities like better work and better pay. To live in liberty and know the Lord and not the devil's way. If you understand, rock to this, let the letter play. Cause the doors are open, so you know we seek a better way. Striving for a better life.
He that endureth to the end, the same shall be saved. I'm trying to run this race. I'm trying to finish in first place. And here, well done, my servant. Well done, my servant. Oh. day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. MALAK YHWH YASHARAHLA. Shamayam Nathalanawa Lakam Kalyawam Wasalak Nawa Kabwa Wathnawa Kasalak Nawa Kawawathinawa Wala Thabayanawa Banasayuan Abal Hawashayanawa Mayan Rakayam Lanawa Hamalak YHWH Wathapa Arakla I will Aman.
My remedy, Gabar, MALAK. Man of faith. If you woke up this morning and that's a victory, being of this world ain't did shit for me. Cause that's his story, not my history. Seeking the Father to get a sense of me. Got my mind on the kingdom, I see it vividly. Better guard your mind, protect your energy. Gotta cleave to your word, that's my remedy. Gotta cleave to your word, that's my remedy. Spirit of life got us stood on our feet. Don't be deceived, they got a heart full of deceit. We daily oppressed, so we mourn and we weep. Just a messenger, YHWH is God in my speech. We thankful just to make it through the weekend. An honorable man, it's not in season. Demands of the world got us drowning in the deep end. Hear the good news, salvation close. No time to boast, gotta be humble and hope. Even the devil shake and tremble, knowing this time is short. Make sure that my election is sure, and every nation go bow with their heads to the floor. Ain't no time for setbacks, stay covered in these laws. If you woke up this morning and that's a victory, being of this world ain't did shit for me. Cause that's his story, not my history. Seeking the Father to get a sense of me. Got my mind on the kingdom, I see it vividly. Better guard your mind, protect your energy. Gotta cleave to your word, that's my remedy. Gotta cleave to your word, that's my remedy. You didn't lose lose that fight, you got the victory. You taught me to love myself inwardly. My heart stopped, that was a C-section delivery. Of memories of you, yeah, I got galleries. Your last days, cherish every moment. Every spirit gotta leave and pass over. No more crooked doctors and cold shoulders. Overcome this world, physician with lies. Toss that dirt on you, give me the reason to try. YHWH give you wings now, teach me to fly. I can't forget that last tear coming down your eyes. This body just a shell, it's what's dwelling inside. One day at a time, I'ma take it with strides. If you woke up this morning and that's a victory, being of this world ain't did shit for me. Cause that's his story, not my history. Seeking the Father to get a sense of me. Got my mind on the kingdom, I see it vividly. Better guard your mind, protect your energy. Gotta cleave to your word, that's my remedy. Gotta cleave to your word, that's my remedy. Yeah. Yeah. When you see some light, that's a breakthrough. Concrete jungle, it's a damn zoo. Eyes wide, while they live on snooze. I hope in what you touch impact some souls. Picture perfect, nigga, like a centerfold. I'm all about my bread, that's the dinner roll. Do it on my lonely, you can send the word. I remember drinking until my speech was slurred. But karma is the bitch, you better treat it right. It's power in these thoughts, she gave me mic. But this your life, nigga roll the dice. Eviction notice, try not to notice. But through your ups and downs, trying to find your purpose. Girded in this truth, blocking evil forces. Good intentions, create your invention. No huddle, fourth and inches. Keep on trying, heart of a lion. Keep on climbing on your way to Zion. Highs and lows, no time to fold. Since the snotty nose, I've been kinda bold. Keep on trying, heart of a lion. Keep on climbing on my way to Zion. Highs and lows, no time to fold. But since the snotty nose, I've been kinda bold. You headed to them streets, trying to fill the void. Trying to box with God, trying to win our Floyd. All these traps, gotta count the joy. I lift my voice up like a trumpet though. Wash away these sins and these transgressions. Change your outlook, that's your only weapon. But we the black Jews, these is mental Jews. Trying to set a pace while they drive on cruise. Can't trust they actions, they intent is cruel. I'm from a sunny place where it's shady people. Erase your history and they say we equal. Do your all in this world, they make you feeble. Built these corporations, look how they treat you. Get up on your grind, I'm thinking ownership. I know your past mistakes equate to something better. He give visions to the blind, Helen Keller. Keep on trying, heart of a lion. Keep on climbing on your way to Zion. Highs and lows, no time to fold. Since the snotty nose, I've been kinda bold. Keep on trying, heart of a lion. Keep on climbing on my way to Zion. Highs and lows, no time to fold. But since the snotty nose, I've been kinda bold.
All right. All right. Shalom, shalom. Let me know if you guys can hear me now. Now let me know if you can hear me. Put a 1 in the chat, Baba Kusha. All right, all praises. So again, starting from the top, shalom, shalom to those coming in. Shalom to those that are typing and coming up in the comments. Shalom, YHWH, Shemya, Shabarak, Thumb. All right, all praise, you guys can hear me. Hudson, am I the only white guy here? I would guess so. This is an Israelite channel. If need be, definitely can speak loud. That's not an issue. All of you see the title to the lesson, Modern Day Calendar History. I had a while back what was called the Lunar Sabbath series, going into the history of calendars, evolving into what we know today as the Gregorian calendar, implemented back in 1582, over roughly 400 years ago going on now. So now, back base into those classes and back into that history so that we're now able to understand the times we're living in with the recap of all of those old lessons, jumble it into one. And what we're now going to do is go into all of it officially to recap we learned and everything that brothers and sisters have been tested on. And what we're now going to do is go back into the lesson tonight to refresh everyone's memory and now proceed the classes continuing on forth from there. I want to say now, there will be the testing and quizzes on it pertaining to future classes. And I also want to say they will be continuing and rolling within the curriculum of these classes that I will be going into and teaching pertaining to the testing, the quizzing, and definitely the PowerPoint presentations and the classes that will be covered in these next future classes. I plan on teaching within this series of what I entitled as the Lunar Sabbath series. All right, so the first precept I'm going to read is Romans chapter 15 and verse 4, which says, "For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope." And I parallel this with Daniel chapter 7 and verse 25. It says, "And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times in the dividing of time." So the reason why I read these precepts is because we know that being underneath Esau's foot and we are oppressed, we are at the bottom, we are at the bottom of the totem pole in society, scattered across the four corners of the earth. We are subject to those that rule over us, which at the helm and at the top would be Esau, but also encompasses the rest of the nations. So going into this with Daniel chapter 7 and verse 25, I'm actually going to read Daniel 7 and 25 and the NLT, the New Living Translation, which says such things. Oh, Salakia. Daniel 7 and 25 in the NLT says, "He will defy the Most High and oppress the holy people of the Most High. He will try to change their sacred festivals and laws, and they will be placed under his control for a time, times, and half a time." So, with that being said, again, we're going to go back into the history tonight to encompass and cover everything that's taken place and what's happened, and officially cover everything that we have before. And I'm going to show imagery and everything like that after the presentation so that all of you physically see what's taken place and the gods that have taken hold and predominance within these calendars and days of the week that's now being followed and has been instituted all across the world in this current age. All right. Apayak, without further ado, let's get into the first slideshow presentation. Again, shalom, shalom to those coming in, shalom. Any one of you that remember the presentations and what was being tested on, this should be familiar to you. Any of those new coming in, reviewing back over what we went into. Again, this is modern day calendar history, going back into the history of ancient calendars from ancient Rome up until the very present day. I'm going to maximize my screen the way it's more presentable. All of you remember this was gone back into August 21st last year. Again, this is the modern day calendar origins. I'll see the transitions, man. Don't sleep. All right, next slide. Yes, sir. All right, so we know that Rome is the fourth beast. We know that in Daniel chapter 7 and verse 7, it says, after this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly. It had great iron teeth, and devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Now, why do I read this? This is the Roman Empire. This is the Roman Empire at its greatest extent in 117 AD. It covered Egypt, parts of northern Africa, of course, the home base in Italy, where Rome is, Greece, much of Greece, even into parts of Mesopotamia, all the way towards the east, Asia, Syria, of course, Judea, as we know, 63 BC. Most of modern-day Turkey, known then as Anatolia. The fourth beast is, we all should know, is the Roman Empire. Next slide. All right, the beginning. Attributed to Romulus himself, the Roman calendar originally was determined by the cycles of the moon in the seasons of the agricultural year, beginning in March in the spring and ending in December with the autumn planting. The year then was 10 months long and had 6 months of 30 days and 4 of 31 for a total of 304 days. 10 lunar months actually comprised of about 295 days. Since each month began and ended with the new moon, that day would have belonged both to the new month and the old. It must have been counted twice. The remnants of this early calendar still can be recognized in the number names for Quintilis, July, and Sextilis, August, September, October, November, and December. The 2 months of winter, when there was no work in the fields, were not counted. Next slide. That would be now, of course, January and February. Numa Pompilius, the second king of ancient Rome, born April 21st, 753 BC, was firstly responsible for reforming the calendar, which originally contained 10 months. The year started with Martius, or Mars, which is March. The calendar year was 304 days long, and winter was not calculated officially by months, which means it was not tracked or kept in their records. They considered it monthless until the spring came in again. Sometime during the middle of the 8th century BC, King Numa decided to add 2 more months and keep months and days in order according to the harvest and agricultural timing of the seasons. So again, with the numerical months, September 7, October 8th, December Dec 9, November Nov 10. Those months were originally calculated normally numerically within the calendars, which is why they all have the prefixes that they do. But now, as we're going to continue, next slide, we're now going to see how, as we just read here, 2 more months were added into the calendar to now give us these extra 2 additional months. According to Livy, it was Numa Pompilius, the second king of Rome, who divided the year into 12 lunar months. 50 days, says Censorinus, were added to the calendar and a day taken from each month of 30 days to provide for the 2 winter months. Januarius, January, and Februarius, February, both of which had 28 days. This was a lunar year of 354 days, but because of the Roman superstition about even numbers, an additional day was added to January to make the calendar 355 days long. Auspiciously, each month now had an odd number of days: Martius, Maius, Quintilis, originally before it became July, and October continued to have 31. The other months, 29, except for February, which had 28 days. Considered unlucky, it was devoted to rites of purification for Brua, an expiation appropriate to the last month of the year. Next slide. If there's any questions, comments, concerns, anything anybody wants to add, put them in the chat, Baba Kushab. All right, now we're on months of the year. Let's proceed. First month, or now the first month of the year, January. January of all the months of the calendar, all the months of the calendar have and are pagan and idolatry related. Starting now with January instead of March because of the calendar being revised, January, which is English for the Latin Januarius, the letter J didn't come into existence until the 1600s, and it was replaced by the letter I. Januarius comes from the Roman god Janus. Janus is the two-headed god. He is known and associated as the god of beginnings, endings, gates, transitions, times, doorways, and passages. January 1st, now being the start of the new year, so I can put a typo, is symbolized with said Happy New Year, due to the reverence of this particular god received every year, signifying one year ending and another beginning. Next slide. February. Februus is the ancient god of purifications, also similar to the Roman Febris, connected with something that needs to be purged, hence purification. Febris is the Roman goddess of fevers. Februus is also to honor the ancient Februa, hence Februaria. Also, all of you should know about Valentine's Day and the festival that's taking place. Februaria is the festival of washing and purification. Februus' month was February, in Latin Februarius, the name given for the purification festival that took place on the 15th of that month. The festival also goes by another ancient name known as Lupercalia. You all should know about that and what Esau particularly likes to partake in with orgies, the whipping of women to make them more fertile, which absolutely makes no sense, considering you're causing stress and pain to the body, which is not what a child needs to be brought forth, but this is what they do on their ancient feast days. Next slide. March. March, from the Roman god Mars, in Latin is Martius, is the god of war and agriculture. In Greek mythology, his equivalent was the Greek god Ares. Mars' festival in Rome occurred in the spring and fall. During the reign of Augustus Caesar, he became the personal guardian of the emperor in his role as avenger. His animal was the wolf, a symbol of Rome. A planet is named also after this deity. Next slide. April. The Latin for April is Aprilis, given by the Romans. The etymology stems from the Latin word aperiere, meaning to open, an allusion to the season of spring where flowers bloom and open. The month has been more etymologically associated with the Greek goddess Aphrodite, who was associated with love. Comparison to the Romans, theirs was the goddess Venus, who was the goddess of love, sex, beauty, and fertility. Next slide. On to May. The month of May is named after the Roman goddess Maya, who oversaw the growth of plants, fertility, and spring. Maya was considered a nurturer and an earth goddess, explaining the connection of the springtime month. In short, it stands for Maya's menses, meaning Maya's month. Menses is also the weekly cycle that women have also. Since the establishment of Mother's Day in the early 19th century, Mother's Day is celebrated the second Sunday of May, which would, of course, occur during this month because it is named after a Roman goddess who was a woman. Next slide. June. This month is named after the goddess Juno. She is the queen of the gods, the goddess of marriage, and protector of the Roman Senate. She was the wife and sister of Jupiter, another planetary name, and also was the king of the gods in the Roman mythology. Her equivalent in Greek mythology is Hera, the wife and sister of Zeus, who is the king of the gods. Next slide. July. July before it was named, that was originally quintilis, meaning fifth month, in Latin from the original Roman calendar. July came to be about being named after and in honor of Julius Caesar. He was a Roman general, statesman, and future dictator of Rome who was eventually assassinated. Due to this month being his birth month, the Roman Senate named it after Julius Caesar and his death in 44 BC to honor him. It's now the 7th month in the Gregorian calendar. So from number 5 to number 7 in this calendar now. Next slide. August. In the original calendar, it was Latin sextilis. It means 6th month originally, but is now the 8th month of the Gregorian calendar. In 8 BC, the month name was changed to honor the first Roman emperor, Augustus Caesar. Augustus, coming from the same Latin word, means consecrated or venerable. Next slide. Should be able to show it if I'm not mistaken. All right, now the rest of the months, September, October, November, December, originally placed in cardinal order, have Latin roots for their numerical placement. Septem means 7, octo means 8, octopus. Nova means 9, decum means 10. Next slide. I'm sure that's the last of this presentation. Hudson, why did Israel get scattered by God? Because we disobeyed him in his commandments, and he will redeem his people once his son returns. Please focus on the lesson, Baba Kushah. GANAN, named after pagan gods. Definitely slept on these transitions. So, hey, listen, I gotta add it in. You gotta modify it a little bit. Definitely Lupercalia is wicked. A lot of these god links to some type of fertility. GANAN, problem Esau is having today. Taboo. Oh man, I'd say wicked and just outright pernicious. Give me a second, Baba Kushah. Give me a second. Let me stop the camera quick. Oh. All right. Sloppy about that. Quick little transition. All right. So we got the first one down with the months of the year and the origins of the calendar. Apaya, can you pull up the second one? Now let's get into the days of the week. One down, 2 to go. All right. Oh, no, not the Julian calendar one, the other one. There we go. All right, we covered the first one. I hope it's kicking in for you guys, remembering what we last had gone into and what we went over. We got the months of the year down, so now we're going into the planetary gods in the modern calendar. Quash said crazy how they all married and all siblings as well. It just sound like Egypt, like Kana. But definitely, we got to know our brothers the complete entire opposite of who and what we are now. But not just that, going into the history of it as well, which is why we're tapping and going back into it so we get the refresher. Like I said, I'm going back into these classes. As you guys see here with the Lunar Sabbath series, they're going to keep pushing it and continuing it forward. All right, so next we have this presentation, the planetary gods in the modern calendar. Let's proceed, Apayat. Let's get into it. All right. To begin, the Roman state calendar. This calendar was found in the baths of Titus. He was the Roman general and son of Emperor Vespasian. Vespasian that led the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 CE. This calendar shows the gods of the Romans in order of the days of the week in the calendar had and kept in this current time during the first century. It shows the god Saturn as the first day of the week and Friday as the last day. Interestingly enough, there are 7 gods reflecting the 7 days of the week. The days of the week reflect the gods worshipped by the heathen that are still present and much pagan rooted in today's man-made calendar. In the Roman stick calendar, there are 12 zodiacs in the wheel in the Roman numerals of the day of the month being 30 in total. So, with that being said and stated, now let's get into the days of the week. So as we're going into this, I hope everything's unfolding for you guys because we not only did go into this, all of you are able to see the comparisons in ancient time and are able to see it all today. So as we're going into this, let all of it unfold because this is all going to come back to you guys to help you understand how we went over this, but to help you understand the deeper parts of history that we are so much unaware and ignorant to that we now have to go back into. Next slide. All right, the first god, Saturn. Saturn was the first day of the week according to this calendar. The Greek god Kronos and the Roman god Saturn were the same in both peoples. They're both the god of harvest, agriculture, and abundance, typically being represented as holding a scythe. Being the god of time, he was also shown frequently holding babies. Wait till we get to the pictures. Saturn's chief holiday was Saturnalia. Kronos, also spelled Kronos with the C, in ancient Greek religion was a make deity who was worshipped by the pre-Hellenic population of Greece. He was later identified with the Roman god Saturn, depicted as an old man having a sickle. According to their custom, ancient priests told the people that the sun was dying and must be propitiated with costly sacrifices. What did they do? Saturn, being the god of time, was employed to continue time. The people were thus compelled to offer things most precious to them, most notably their children. Saturn, in turn, reaped the harvest of souls in the burned bodies of babies and young children. Of course, you guys can notice the water for that. I'm going to read this precept really quick based off of that. Leviticus chapter 20 and verse 1 says, "And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Again thou shalt say to the children of Israel, whosoever he be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn in Israel, that giveth any of his seed unto Molech, he shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones. And I will set my face against that man, and will cut him off from among the people, because he hath given his seed unto Molech to defile my sanctuary and to profane my holy name." And again, living amongst our oppressors, because they did rule over us at the particular time. This is how they practice worshiping their gods, particularly Saturn, by giving up their babies and their children to appease the father time, as he's also known as, to implore time to continue going so the sun wouldn't. Sunday. Got to get into extensive history on Sunday. Sunday, the Romans believed in Sol Invictus, which means invincible sun or unconquered sun. Emperor Elagabalus was raised in Syria, placed every god within Rome, including Jupiter, under the hegemony of the sun god. The sun god eventually became a chief deity in the Roman Empire, being revived by Emperor Aurelian in 274 AD, after having been put in the upper after having been put in the upper echelon of the Roman pantheon. The sun god is depicted having a crown over the head and racing through the skies with a horse-drawn chariot. A very important figure to note from Sunday and its paganistic roots, with the day becoming centralized to worship, leads us to Constantine the Great. Next slide. Sunday continued. Constantine the Great in 321 AD made the venerable Day of the Sun by civil enactments he put forth. This gave a weekly rest day to the empire and gave official recognition to the week of 7 days and resulted in the introduction of it into the official calendar of Rome. The Romans passed down their calendar, eventually evolving and made it into the Gregorian with its pagan roots still evident. 6 decrees were released with this proclamation. On March 7th, law commanding all townspeople, courts, trades to cease from labor on the day of the sun. In June, emancipation and manumission of slaves allowed on Sunday. Wonder where else? We read and know that. Christian soldiers allowed to attend Sunday church services. Pagan troops required to recite a prayer while on the drill field on Sunday, even people that didn't even believe in sun worship. Sunday declared a market day throughout the entire year. Monday, Mother's Day, was just on Sunday. Support the Council of Nicaea's decision that Christ's resurrection is now observed on Easter Sunday, then on Passover. Note, all the way at the bottom, I'll go back real quick. Got to get that last note. Note, I put 2 stars by it. This decree also significantly outlawed the Hebrew biblical calendar, which was lunar based. Next slide. I want to emphasize that because the sun, of course, and how we know it today with the Gregorian calendar is now solar or sun predominantly based, now with the lunar moon and lunar phases being pushed behind it. So now beginning Monday, Luna is the Roman goddess of the moon. She is as the personification and divine essence of the moon. She is the female counterpart to the sun god and sibling to Sol. She is often depicted as bearing a crescent crown over her head. Her Greek counterpart is Selene. Her worship dates back to 182 BCE, the year the temple of Luna first appears in Roman literature. Lastly, she's associated with nocturnal magics, secrets, and mysteries, witchcraft, of course. The moon's day eventually became what is now Monday. Next slide. Tuesday. Tuesday is rooted from old Germanic mythology from the god Tyr. The Roman calque, meaning long transition or in its own meaning across languages, renders Tyr as the god Mars in the Roman pantheon, who is the ancient god of war, linking Mars to Tyr in Latin references. Tuesday is named after Tyr, which would be Tyr's Day. In Latin, the day would be Dies Martis, meaning the day of Mars. The Romans brought all foreign gods into their own system belief, equating the gods of other nations into their own pantheon where they saw fit to. In Norse tradition, Tyr sacrifices his right hand to the monstrous wolf Fenrir, who bites Tyr's hand when he realizes the gods had bound him. Tyr is a Norse war god, but also presided over matters pertaining to justice and law. Next slide. All of you are going to see the Roman way and how it parallels to the Greek mythology and how it parallels to their culture as well. All right. Wednesday, most commonly known as Odin in Norse mythology, this god also goes by another common name such as Woden, and in Old Saxon, Woden. He is known by hundreds of names. Wednesday comes from his name, meaning Day of Woden. The day of Wednesday presently bears his name across European nations today, including many Germanic languages. In its Latin, Dies Mercury, meaning the day of Mercury, Woden is interpreted as the Germanic Mercury. Odin is one of the most widely revered gods of Germanic paganism, He is recorded as being extremely significant from Rome to what would be present-day Germany. He is frequently portrayed as one-eyed, long-bearded, wielding a spear in the disguise of a cloak and a broad hat. He oversees Valhalla, described as a majestic hall located in Asgard, which would technically be their heaven, if you will. Next slide. All right, you have Thursday. In the German pantheon of paganism, Thor is among the prominent of the gods. In Norse mythology, he is a hammer-wielding god associated with lightning, thunder, storms, and strength. Other names for him would be Thunor or Thunar in old Germanic languages. His name means thunder. Accordingly, he is red-bearded and middle-aged man of enormous strength. He is the son of Odin and Jorl. The English Thursday is named after this god, which would be Thursday. In Greek, his counterpart would be Hemerodios, the day of Zeus. In Latin, it would be Dies Jovis or Jovis, meaning day of Jupiter. Jupiter is depicted as the chief god of the sky, as is Zeus, and thunder, who maintain his power of the thunderbolt. The first thing that may come up, all of you know, Chris Hemsworth may be thinking of the Avengers. This is the God that he portrays in all of his movies. Next slide. All right, Friday should be the last one. Frigg. Frigg in Norse mythology is the goddess of marriage, prophecy, fertility, motherhood, and love. She is the wife of Odin. Her name also could be Frigga and also Freya or Frey. Her name means also beloved in Old Norse. She was the queen of the Kasir. She was worshipped as a sky goddess and had charge of weaving face. Friday means the day of Frigg. In Latin, it would be Dies Veneris, which means the day of Venus. In Greek origins, it would be Hemera Aphrodites, the day of Aphrodite. That should conclude the second presentation. Should conclude the second presentation. Kanye, Shar, and Bakwash, I see you guys in the comments. Absolutely, Ganan. Sunday Christianity, the day of worship. Constantine had a lot of people in Christianity do definitely. Yep. Had forced their wicked ideology on the unwary of us while offsetting the balance of time. Kyle Khan, Daniel 7:25. With all of his paganism, I can't see how people don't understand America's spiritual Babylon. Esau names days of the week after Marvel characters. Absolutely, and that's the point of going into this and going over it, to just simply explain to people how they don't see the parallels within ancient history and time and can't see it today. Definitely, fertility does come up a lot. And we know that because Esau definitely, the scriptures say that the devils know and also tremble. So, you know, if Esau would definitely know and see that his kingdom eventually someday is going to come to an end, them having multiple gods of fertility has to be their relief and comfort for them to know that that's the blessing their God give them, knowing that they won't be in rulership of the earth anymore at the future point. Final notes. The Romans never conquered what is now Germany and the surrounding countries, though they did have multiple campaigns that were unsuccessful. The ancient Germanic peoples declared themselves independent, never being subdued by the Romans, but were definitely influenced by them in their calendars. Most of the Germanic-speaking neighbors of the Romans adopted the 7-day Roman week and simply substituted the names of the Germanic gods for their Roman equivalents. So the Romans called Dies Mercury, Mercury's Day, became Woden's Day in Old English, or Woden's Dag, Old Saxon, and Wutang's Dag in Old High German, all meaning Woden's Day. So the parallel between culture and the influence between the Germans and the Romans and all across the Roman Empire within this particular time that they ruled over the earth should help you all to understand. This is why there's parallels in different cultures, and this is why going from this culture to the next and so on and so forth helps you to understand how predominant influence was at that time and age. We know it says in Proverbs chapter 3, envy thou not the oppressor, nor choose none of his ways. Well, the ways of the oppressor, a lot of people can't help but to follow if the oppressor is ruling over them. So what do? Rather than to fight the influence, they follow. All right, that was the second presentation on the days of the week and the origins. We covered the months of the year so far with the history given in the first presentation. Apaya, can you pull up the last one, Baba Kushad, the Julian calendar? Julian calendar is the last one. Julian calendar. Let's get to it. All right, Julius Caesar and the Julian calendar. All right, Gaius Julius Caesar. He was born in July 12th BC, living until March 15th, 4 BC. Was a Roman general and statesman. He was a dictator from 49 BC until his death and assassination in 44 BC. He proclaimed himself dictator only for his rule to last less than 1 year. His death led to many events that much led to the fall of the Roman Republic and paved the way for establishment of the Roman Empire. While alive, he led many social and governmental reformations, which included the creation of the Julian calendar. Next slide. All right, the Julian calendar. The Julian calendar was introduced by Julius Caesar in 45 to 44 BC. It replaced the old Roman calendar, previously in place by the old Roman ruler Numa Pompilius. Again, this is going back to the first presentation. He was the second king of Rome. The older Roman calendar was a complicated reformed lunar calendar based on the phases of the moon. To fit the times more concisely, Julius consulted the Alexandrian astronomer named Sosigenes and created a more regulated civil calendar, a solar calendar based on Earth's revolutions around the sun. So I want to repeat the second line. It says the older Roman calendar was a complicated reformed lunar calendar based on the phases of the moon, which means even that they had a lunar-based calendar and followed the cycles and phases of the moon, no different than we did as a Levant people. And it wasn't just the Israelites, it was all of the Shemitic peoples around about us that also had the lunar predominant calendars that were also in use within their own empires and regions. So now we're looking at calendar reformations in the history of where it begins and seeing how eventually from being lunar-based and following after the phases of the moon that we read about and went over in the first presentation, now this is where the switch and the change begins to now becoming a solar sun predominated calendar, that being the Gregorian calendar today that's now being implemented and followed, that we're now about to get into. Next slide. All right, the leap years. A common year in the Julian calendar consisted of 365 days divided into 12 months, as it was a solar dominant calendar. In this calendar, every 4 years equals a leap year with a leap day added into the month of February. The month was added into the old Roman calendars, going back to the first presentation. Due to miscalculations within the calendar of the leap years, supposed to be counted every 4 years, and after Caesar's death, the calculations being mishandled, this led to future problems for nations down the road. February 29th is the day for when the leap year occurs, but there was at one point in history a February 30th. Next slide. February 30th. The nation of Sweden added February 30th to its calendar in 1712, following an earlier calendar era. The Soviet Union also observed February 30th in 1930 and in 1931 an attempt to cut the work week from 7 days to 5 and introduce it 30-day months for the year. In 1700, Sweden, including Finland at the time, planned to convert from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar. In 1700, which was a leap year in the Julian calendar, it was not a leap year in Sweden. February 30th, 1712, came into existence in Sweden when the Julian calendar was restored and 2 leap days were added that year. Nope. The Gregorian calendar was institutionalized and created in 1582. European nations did not immediately switch over to implement it. Some nations took decades and centuries to do so. And this is why the point of the slide here is to show that nations had problems switching over because not everybody at this particular age and time followed the same calendar. So the point of explaining and going into this is to show that the reformations and the errors that was prophesied to come in Daniel chapter 7:25, we're reading the living history of it inside this presentation to show and portray how the problems of not only switching to a solar dominant based calendar was not only one issue and one problem, but how other nations, because the Roman Empire ruled at that time, and then further on when it got dismantled, and nations having to work, trade, and deal business with one another, at that point and in that age of time, well, they're all going to have to cohesively come together to figure out a time frame and network to follow and go by. And of course, it being the Julian calendar, then implemented, and then the implementation of the Gregorian calendar, 1582, well, they all had to get on board accordingly with this calendar. And this is explaining all the problems that each of the nations had switching over. Next slide. Yes, sir. Additional facts. The Julian calendar is 13 days behind the Gregorian calendar. Yes, even till this day. It was the most predominant calendar in use for 1600 years, that being the Julian calendar. The calendar, like the Gregorian, is man-made. It is not biblically oriented. It is predicated upon by the solar luminary, the sun. When the Gregorian calendar came into effect in 1582, several nations waited decades and even centuries to make the lunar changeover. Saudi Arabia, being an example, switched from its lunar-based Hijri calendar since its founding in 1932 to the Gregorian calendar in 2016. So roughly 9 years ago, going on now, because we're in 2025, they used their calendar roughly for more than 80 years, 90 years, give a rough estimate, and finally switched over to the Gregorian-based calendar. And we're using a lunar-based calendar the entire time. Next slide. That's not it. All right. That's the end of the last presentation. All right. Julian calendar introduced leap year in February every 4 years. That was one of the questions. GANAN. All right. Now, without further ado, we went over the months of the year and the days of the week. We are now going to get into all of the gods that the heathen worshiped and all of the imagery and the pictures to depict and show who they worshipped and how they looked. Apaya, can you upload the first picture? The Roman god Janus. Watch the dark humor, but it is more reason that's why the sun and moon shall be darkened. Panah. Of course, though, if you can see the Roman god Janus. Janus is named after the month of January is named after the Roman god Janus. He was one of the few uniquely Roman gods who was looked upon as the creator of the world. Janus is the god of the beginnings and endings, gates and transition, and as such, he is depicted with two faces, one looking back at the past and the other one looking toward the future. That is the Roman god Janus. That is where January comes from. Next picture. All right, next picture is the second month of the year, Februarius, Dia Februa, the goddess. This is where February comes from. So it's the second month implemented by Numa Pompilius in the 8th century. Remember, January and February were not counted as agricultural months because it was winter, so there's no harvest to be done. They just waited for the 2 winter months to go by before the spring came in again, which began with Martius, i.e. Mars, which became March, when the year officially began and started over again. Again, it was originally in ancient time in ancient Rome known as, they also followed a lunar calendar. Next one up. All right. As all of you can see here, be a man of war, a man girded. This is the god Martius. This is Mars, in Greek mythology known as the god Ares. He is a god of war. This is, well, now the 3rd month of the year. Originally was the 1st. Again, before they added in the 2 months. Next one. All right, you have Aphrodite, the goddess of love, fertility. As Ganan had pointed out, we know women bear the children, which is often why women are noted with fertility, marriage, sex, so on and so forth. Even in the original paintings and depictions they have of Aphrodite, they painted her naked for some odd reason. Of course, her cleavage is out. That's Esau's nature. The nun put it earlier in the chat, Hebrews 12, there's no more of a profane person than Esau. I don't know what the fetish is with wanting to see people naked. They don't consider to think other people will be looking at it, but
Beast is they're beasts. It's the beast. So beasts, they're impulsive, they're provocative, they're they're animalistic. That's how they think. Remember when he was given the birth of life, he was given knowledge and understanding to live above bestial thinking.
The Captain Shema beautifully pointed out that Esau is very much animalistic and beast-like, which is why they have such an impulsive and provocative nature. They do things without caring what others will think. No different than just the careless behavior of animals that you'll see. A dog will lick itself and lick its private parts in the attention and not care who's watching or who's around. No different than pretty much what they're doing here in the depiction of their gods and the things that they do with these statues and paintings. Next picture. That was Aphrodite. This is the goddess Maya, the goddess of agriculture, fertility, harvest. Maya's menses, which means Maya's month. Again, also Mother's Day occurring on the second Sunday of May. Shouldn't be new that a Mother's Day occurring in May is also after the mother goddess worship of the month being named after a woman herself. All right, next one. This is the goddess Juno. If you search her up on Google, you will also see the Statue of Liberty. And her same exact pose that you see in this picture here is literally almost the same, but she's not carrying the torch. I believe that's just a staff in her hand. This is who the month of June is named after. This is also who the month of June is named after, another goddess. So yes, when the book of Jeremiah talks about the children of Israel worshiping the Queen of Heaven, it is also so, and often with these female deities, because most of the months of the year are named after women. With, I believe, January and March being the only exception of men. February, April, May, and June are all named after female goddesses. Next one. All right, this is a statue of Julius Caesar in Rome. Again, the month of July was named after him, an Edomite, founder of the Roman Republic. Died in 44 BC. Again, he was a dictator and reigned for less than 1 year. His nephew, Apayak, if you could pull up the next picture. His nephew, this is Augustus Caesar, and the Roman Senate named it after him, being July and August, with Augustus Caesar being the first Caesar of the new Roman Empire. This is where August comes from, which is the 8th month of the year. So from being quintilis and sextilis being 5 and 6 in the original Roman calendar, because they did originally have Roman numerals, they were named after these two men who, of course, again, are Edomites. And that September, October, November, and December being pushed out of place by January and February originally had their place within the original calendar system, being prefixated upon their meanings of the numerical values of their name being 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, so we got that for the months of the year. Now let's get into the days of the week. Let's get the first picture. I want you guys to physically be able to see Esau's depiction and their beast-like mind state and their way of thinking when it comes to the gods that they worship. Like, of all the things that they could come up with stories, of all the things that they could think of all the things that they could do pertaining to stories, you'd figure like it'd be some kind of maybe appealing over the tale story and stuff like that, so on and so forth. Like this is who they had depicted as their gods, and this is who they worship, right? Let's see the comments real quick. That's the meaning of the word gymnos, meaning naked. Khan, a random thought spark. If this is off topic, is it absolutely okay if it needs to be addressed after the lesson over? That the Romans worship these gods, so why do they have the Pope? That changed only because, remember, when you're reigning over different and vast amounts of people, and there's complaints here, the complaints from the Jews that want to hold on to the tradition of their forefathers. You have paganism here, you have paganism there. The people want to worship their own gods. And remember, the Romans did brutally suppress peoples, and there was always revolts, so on and so forth like that. Someone has to lead the church religiously, while the Romans lead it militarily. It's Catholicism and the Pope, a combination of all these gods in one. Sis, you could say that, and also on behalf of the fact that there officially has to be a leader, and at some point there does have to be a division between state and military, whereas the order of Melchizedek, high priest and king in one. We had David for an example. We also have the Levitical priesthood. Ask the question. I asked a question in our class last Friday. Why in this day and age have an American Pope? It's actually a good question to none as to why he was selected over everybody. Will definitely be seeing the agenda behind it as to why he was elected. It's a distraction because they want to disguise Babylonian mysticism as Catholicism, Christianity, for it to be accepted worldwide and known. Absolutely, Bakwash, that's an excellent answer. I'm going to highlight it, read it again. It's a distraction because they want to disguise Babylonian mysticism as Catholicism and Christianity for it to be accepted worldwide unknowingly. And that was the entire point of why Constantine made that edict back in 321 BC, 321 AD, pertaining to establishing Sunday as a day of rest, as a day of worship. Easter Sunday, when Christ rose and nobody has to complain about it. When did he do it? So on and so forth. Ayan Gabar says, post current events in the past. I'll close that up. Question. We're definitely going to see more pertaining to it, Ganan. I'm looking forward to seeing what people have to say and the thoughts on it. Glad I got to read the comments. So back to the class. Now we're on the days of the week. So I want all of you to see how they depicted their gods and look at the imagery portrayed forth by the deities that Esau worships. This is Saturn. Apaya, could you zoom in? I've read Saturn, and Saturn is the god of harvest and agriculture. This is Saturn. That's Latin on the bottom. Could you go up top to show the picture up? Of course, the man is nearly naked. Appreciate putting that little bit of flowers over him. He has a scythe in his hand, and you see a child in the other one, and he's about to kill the child. Now, remember the people, because they thought the sun, they were convinced the sun was dying, had to offer up their children as sacrifices and kill it. Apayat, next picture. I want all of you to see how their gods are depicted and look at how they worship their deities and the things that they did. Oh, not that one. It should be the more of the pictures of the god Saturn. There we go. Should be the second one to the left with the sickle. There we go. All right, so this is another depiction of Saturn. He's holding the sickle, an ancient carving of him. This is how he looked. Of course, you definitely know that it's Esau by the scraggly beard. You don't even need to look at the hair. Next picture. Any of this look familiar to you? An old man with the white scraggly beard and a child on his lap. Child actually doesn't look too happy in this picture. And all of you can see, of course, he has red on. More depictions. And you see the child on his lap, and you see the scythe literally looking like it's about to be put right into his head to kill the child. Again, they sacrificed their children to satisfy and to appease their god of the harvest and agriculture, which was Saturn. Pull up the last picture up. And the most defined one is this one, where I believe in Greek mythology, Kronos, the god that is equivalent to Saturn in Greek mythology, eats his own children. Yes, this is the story they had. This is what they believe. This is an ancient painting of them eating their own children. Again, to appease their gods. An old scraggly white man with the beard, no different than today with Santa Claus and the old jolly white man with the same beard and having kids sit on his lap. It's the same ancient pagan idolatry still being followed, kept, and worshipped today by people. Saturn's day, Saturday. All right, next one, Sunday. All right. Or excuse me, not Sunday, Monday. Because the sun, of course, being a ball of light, we don't need to see any pictures of it, was consecrated as the invincible sun or the unconquered sun, instituted Sunday worship off of Constantine in 321 AD. Now, again, this is the goddess Luna, female goddess, of course. You guys see the crescent on her head representing the moon. that her information and profile spoke and talked about, and this is who Monday is named after. This is Luna, this is the moon goddess. She is the female counterpart to Sol, who is the sun, or she is the female sibling to the sun god. Next picture. That was Monday. Now for the next one. You got the next picture? All right. All right, next one. We have the god Tyr. Tyr's day is Tuesday. Again, the story of the gods bounding him with the wolf Fenrir eating off his right arm. This is a statue depiction of it. Again, you have the wolf biting off his arm because the gods supposedly had bound him as a form of punishment. And he resided over matters pertaining to law and justice. This is Tyr, who Tuesday is named after. Next slide. All right, this is Odin, or Woden, or Woden with the A. This is who Wednesday is named after, again depicted as an old white man with a long beard. And he is one-eyed. He is the chief of the gods in Norse mythology. Next slide. Next picture. Should be another one after that, given another depiction. Next picture. Up you there. All right. There we go. This is another depiction of Odin. Next to his dogs. Again, white beard, shield. He is known as the chief of the gods, the one who protects and oversees Valhalla, which is their heaven, if you will, inside. Right, with within their mythology that they follow and believe in. And again, he is the chief god in Norse mythology, equivalent to what you could say Zeus, if you will. Next slide. And again, he's where Wednesday comes from, Woden, Woden's day, Wednesday. Next picture. All right, Thor, Thursday. The hammer, the lightning bolt, of course, the god of thunder. Next picture. Another ancient depiction and drawing of him. Thunder from the sky, he has the hammer. Thursday, which is Thor's day. This is another depiction of him. Next picture. All right, last one should be Frigg. Last two for Frigg. Next picture. This is a woman. All right, next two pictures. All right, you have the goddess Frigg. She's the one on the throne in the chair. Frigg is Friday, goddess of fertility, marriage, love. Also known as Freya. Freya, of course, Friday. Next picture of her. One more you got two more depictions. All right. There we go. That's the last depiction of the goddess Frigg, a woman, again, also known as Freya, Friday. And then let's pull up the last picture. Last picture is the most important one out of all of them. The Roman stick calendar that was found in the baths of Titus in the 1st century, I believe between the years of 79 to 81 AD. Let's go to the last picture up, the stick calendar. I also want you guys to know that this calendar was found not just in the 1st century AD, but found during a time where the calendar was already revised to the Julian calendar. So this was another calendar in place that they had, and this was found within the baths of Titus in the 1st century. So as you guys can see, you guys see a wheel of 12 zodiacs, being the 12 months of the year. And then you also have the Roman numerals being all 30 days of the year. I mean 30 days in the month. And then at the top, you guys see the gods of the week from the first day to the last day of the week. You have Saturn, Sunday with the rays above his head. You have Luna, again, the crescent. Tears Day, which is Thor. Salaki. Tears Day, which is Tuesday. Woden's Day, Woden, or Odin. Thursday, Thor. And then Friday was the last day of the week. So Saturday in this ancient time, to them, according to this calendar, was the first day of the week. Then Sunday was the second day. Monday was third. Tuesday was fourth. Wednesday was fifth. Thursday is sixth. And Friday is the last day of the week. And again, I want to emphasize the calendar was already, or prior to this being found, was already reformed to the Julian calendar, which established 365 days a year, 12 months, January as the start, December as the finish. And also on behalf of the fact that this calendar was found in place during a reformation that was already made. All right. So that concludes this class. And again, with the review with those 3 presentations, more of these classes are going to be coming back out again with this Lunar Sabbath series. So we're going to get back into the history of the reformation of all of the calendars and the timelines of what happened and what took place throughout the centuries, and then proceed forth with the presuming classes that will be gone over towards the future. So are there any questions, comments, concerns anybody wants to ask or add within the chat? Please feel free to do so now. All the presentations were given. That way everybody can understand where everything started from, how it proceeded to continue through the aisles of time. And then with these pictures, you're able to physically see the depiction of these gods that they worship. And most importantly, the stick calendar that shows how Saturn up until Friday, or Frigg, or Freya, if you will, Saturn up until Frigg's day, was found in the baths of Titus. You have a 12-wheel zodiac sign represented in 12 months of the year, each accounting month for 30 days. And you can also see how different things were with how the Romans kept them versus how things were constantly getting reformed, undone, and redone throughout the hours of time. Hopefully the Julian calendar made that clear, because again, there were so many complications switching over from the Julian calendar, solar-based, lunar-based calendars a lot of the nations had at the time, and then implementing the Gregorian calendar roughly almost 1,600 years later afterwards, to then everybody having to switch and change over. So again, that's what we'll be doing for future classes. Any questions, comments, concerns anybody has, feel free to put them in the chat now, Baba Kasha. Again, that's the plan moving forward. We're going to be continuing these classes, and there will be quizzes and tests put out on them. Again, this is important because with the holidays coming up, Mother's Day just passed. And any of you that don't know, back in 1908, before World War I, Anna Jarvis from her mother had implemented the day as a day where mothers get recognition and recognized for all the hard work that they do rearing and bringing up and raising children. And the problem that she had with Mother's Day is that it eventually became commercialized and eventually became a day more about profit and money as opposed to appreciating mothers for what they do, bringing and raising up children. So again, it happening this past Sunday that Mother's Day came about. Of course, it happening in the month of May after a mother goddess, after a woman, it shouldn't surprise anyone. Sister Yas said, I want to stop them from changing it again. More than likely from all the revisions that they had made, and also because of the fact that if they did do it again, it'd be a complication and problem for other nations to have to switch over all over again. And because of the headache that it was for nations to take decades and centuries doing so, they definitely decided that it's just best to keep it the way it is right now. That's exactly why Sweden and the Soviet Union both had problems with the calendar switch over, because they both had February 30th at one point in history. So yeah, if they revised it again and decided, hey, we're going to make this new calendar, it's definitely going to be a problem. Any other questions, comments?
Maybe I missed it. I was wondering, knowing sort of the time where they did change it, do we have a more accurate time of what year we're in currently?
Well, according to their calendar, we're in 2025. By the lunar calendar, it's not that the years don't matter, but we would calculate by the first year, the second year, just as the scripture said, we just do everything cardinally by numbers. We don't, do the 2025 or so on. Like in the scriptures, when it says in Maccabees in the such and such year of the Greeks, they're basing it off the timeline of the establishment of the Seleucid Empire, which was established in 312 BC, and subtracting it by the year within the timeline of the Greek kings, or specifically Antiochus IV, to give the accurate date and time for when he was ruling as king, which was 175 BC.
Yeah.
So we don't use that, but we just use that's how you know the Lord's system of counting numbers is simple. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. The Lord doesn't. The Lord is simple with what He does, and knowing that some organizations that don't follow after the lunar calendar. It just makes sense entirely that the Lord used the cardinal numbers to just help us count 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth until the next new moon. We can have 29 days in the month. It can be 30, i.e. so on and so forth. And every 3 to 4 years, we have a leap. The Lord gave us a simple system to use and follow, 1 all the way up until 29 or 30. Keep going and keep counting up until, things change until the following and progressing month. And we're a simple people because we serve a God that is very much as complex. He is very much simple. It's not hard at all to be able to count numbers month to month and be able to figure out which day you're in. And you have signs evident in the heaven for you to follow that he made and created for you so that you wouldn't ever lose track. No matter where you are, you can pay attention to the luminaries of heaven. And the moon is this phase. The moon is that phase. Is it waxing and growing? Is it full, which means you're in the middle of the month? Or is it waning and then you're going back away again? It's the Lord's system is entirely simple. It's not difficult at all to understand. All right, but again, to announce, we will be going back into these classes. So pay attention, take notes, or review Baba Kushal watches back over if you have to, and if need be. We're going to continue these classes from there. So with that being said, Amadi Mopani Makudam. So as I face the east. This is Psalm chapter 119. This is Gamal. Deal bountifully with thy servant that I may live and keep thy word. Open thou mine eyes that I may behold wondrous things out of thy law. I am a stranger in the earth. Hide not thy commandments from me. My soul breaketh for the longing that it hath unto thy judgments at all times. Thou hast rebuked the proud that are cursed, which do err from thy commandments. Remove from me reproach and contempt, for I have kept thy testimonies. Princes also did sit and speak against me, but thy servant did meditate in thy statutes. Thy testimonies also are my delight and my counselors. In the name of Yahweh, Bahasham, YHWH, the water from Yad, Amen.